Hello, everyone. My name is Danny. This review is for the movie called A Star is Born. In this new take on the tragic love story, Jackson Maine is a seasoned musician who discovers and falls in love with struggling artist Allie. She has just about given up on her dream to make it big as a singer until Jack coaxes her into the spotlight. But even as Allie's career takes off, the personal side of their relationship is breaking down as Jackson fights an ongoing battle with his own internal demons. This is a 2018 film. It is rated R. It runs 136 minutes. It's pretty long. It stars Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga, Andrew Dice Clay, Dave Chappell, and Sam Elliott. A Star is Born. And obviously, Bradley Cooper put his hand into kind of producing this movie also. So he's Bradley Cooper now. He has to have his hand in almost everything. So, yeah. First things first is that I didn't want to see this theater movie. I didn't want to see this in theaters. I just didn't. And I knew his music. I knew everybody was saying it was amazing. I, as a singer, knew I would enjoy it in some capacity, but this just didn't look like my kind of movie. It just didn't. I'm not a big fan of Bradley Cooper. I don't know why people think every movie he touches is gold. I don't get it at all. And so I passed it by. And so I am seeing this months later, almost 6 months later, and I am kind of happy with my decision not to see it in theater. I really am. And so I'm sorry if you absolutely thought this was the most amazing movie ever, but I just am not on that wavelength. So here's my review. The stuff it skips over is just amazing. I was watching this movie, and I always like to experience movies, especially when they have music in them, because they're an experience. They're telling a story through the music. They're telling a story as a movie. Two separate things. You got to kind of pay attention. And they skipped over a lot of different things in this movie because it's a love story. It's a Bradley Cooper story. And it just, even though it was a long movie, it could have had so much more in it. And I just felt like it skipped over things like music practices. Like every single movie of a musician that we have out there, they have some kind of music practices, letting us know what their life is like, or that they missed a bunch of practices, what kind of decisions as a musician they're making. And that's almost like a vital part of a musician movie, is to show the struggle of the everyday life. This does a lot of fast forwarding. Like, it goes to this thing, it goes to that thing, and just skips over the daily struggle. We don't get that feeling as a musician that, we know Bradley Cooper's on stuff. We know he's drinking, but we don't get to see why, what the grind is doing to him to make him go to there. We just know he's doing it. And this whole story setup, like, this is one of those movies that we saw a preview a million times. And the story of this movie made it feel like Lady Gaga was doing this talent thing at this bar. Bradley Cooper happens to see her and just is blown away by her. Okay, great. It's not really what happened. And Lady Gaga is, like, from the beginning painted out to be this great singer. Really great. Like, she has tried to become a professional before. She's been told by people she has flaws. That wasn't in the previews at all. That wasn't painted out as the story here. And I was a little disappointed that it got painted incorrectly. And I would have been okay just knowing that she was like a struggling singer instead of just somebody who couldn't sing her own songs and all this other stuff. You know, I mean, those kind of lines in the movie kind of seemed unfit because we get to find out from her, straight from her character, that she's tried to make it before. She's been told that she's not going to. She doesn't have what it takes. And all of a sudden, Bradley Cooper falls in love with her, and then boom, she's a star. It's like, what? You just skipped over all this very important line in dialogue that Lady Gaga throws out there, and then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if she really has talent or not. She just happens to be the pretty girl that Bradley Cooper's character likes to, make famous all of a sudden. So there's really no qualifications for that. And I was hoping to see like a process of what it took for Lady Gaga to become something instead of just having to get lucky and find the right guy. I didn't think it was going to happen like that. And then the whole thing where she's introduced in this movie, it's a really nice moment where she gets to go on stage. She's surprised that, she's coming on stage to sing. That's a fine moment and it's a fine introduction. And I was kind of pleasantly surprised by the whole situation and moment. But we don't really get to see like what people think of her along the way of this movie because she's just thrown on stage. She's Bradley Cooper's girlfriend, and then she's just, becomes a staple and becomes famous. And, there's no process of it. There's no emotion to it. They're very effective songs that are being sung for like the first hour of this movie. It's just like constant music. And I'm sure that's why people fall in love with this movie because the first hour is just like nonstop. It's just song, 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 song. There's hardly any storyline whatsoever. And then like people say things, but then we go to the next song and you're like, oh, you forget about that person said that. And then it gets brought up later and you're like, oh yeah, that did happen. And the second hour plus is like all storyline and no music. And it just gets a little dry. But, we just don't get the process that, most music movies have. And I really think the perfect comparison of this movie, what it could have been, is Music and Lyrics. If you've ever seen that movie, and with Hugh and Drew, totally classic movie. I will always remember it for its lightheartedness and couple writing a song together. This has trends of that, but it's rated R with the cussing, which is not necessary to be feel good. And it deals with drugs and alcohol, unlike Music and Lyrics. And I wish if people want to make movies that are so effective at emotion and powerful moments and relationship situational things, then they would make it not R rated because we need more of those kind of movies. We have enough of this kind of movies. We just get one after another now and they're being shoved down our throats. And I just can't take all the drugs, all the drinking, because then these people are completely out of their minds. And I really don't care what happens for like an hour and a half of this movie. So I just wish there was less of that, more of the songwriting, more of the being on stage together, more of the writing songs on the road. That kind of stuff is great. And for the first hour, it's really great. And I was like, this is sweet. I can handle the couple cuss words that we've had. I can handle the 10 songs that we've had. And then we have the second hour. We have to deal with that. And it's just so stereotypical and just so familiar that we're like, oh, man. There's just no keeping up the good feeling. And I wish more movies would get away from the trend and be original and not be R-rated and be funny the whole time and have music in it constantly. And that be what blows me away is the first hour of A Star is Born, but have it for 2 hours and limit the cussing and limit the drug use because we've heard it a million times before. One of the lines at the end of this movie, and I'll have that kind of define my review here, is that Sam, the brother in this movie, he says that the tale of what happens to the family and the friends and stuff at the end of this movie, I won't give it away if you haven't seen it, that it's a story that is told over and over again. That's what he says in the movie to the people watching the movie, that this is a story that's been told over and over. That's his line. I'm not joking you. That's what he says. And when somebody says that, and I'm watching a movie that I'm not so sure about, I'm kind of on the border of loving the first hour and hating the second hour, and I'm kind of wanting something to cement it at the end for me. That's what cemented it. Is that this movie has been seen over and over again. We've heard this story over and over again, and it was kind of pathetic at the end. There's a million ways to handle it, and they went with the old cliche. And so I'm going to give A Star is Born a B. And I think it's always and forever going to be a B because of copping out at the end, being very dry, being very plain Jane. And I appreciate Lady Gaga's acting and singing. I thought Sam, the brother, was a little bit out of place. He just was a little too old for me to buy as a real good brother character. And I just don't care for Bradley Cooper. And he does a tremendous job in this movie of singing, of acting like a drunk, of being a drunk. And he pulls off the whole boyfriend, husband character, but not very well because obviously he's out of his mind on stuff half the time. So I can't take seriously what he's saying and everything that's happening, and people aren't reacting correctly. I just know is not real, and it's just the movie not being telling people how to act on a certain situation and stuff. So I think that's enough. I'm glad I saw this movie. I might see it again sometime. I was looking at a couple scenes here and there. I'm like, wow, that'd be really nice to remember about this movie. It has some really good moments and something that could be seen again, and I could just feel good about it. I wouldn't have to watch it the whole time. I could just enjoy listening to the music and stuff. So I think a B is a really good rating for this movie. Hope you enjoy A Star is Born. Thanks a lot, guys. My name's Danny. If you like this or any of my other videos, try and give some of them a watch. Like and subscribe to my channel if you would. And enjoy your movies. Thanks.